John, you are out there. We've talked to you before about your great new book, Dollarocracy. And you and your co-author, Robert Waterman McChesney, are right now doing your book tour, right? Yeah. All about money in politics. Is it getting any better? It's just getting worse, isn't it?
No, it's getting much better. But
really?
We don't have a media in this country that covers politics, except for you. And so as a result, people aren't aware.
How's it getting better?
16 states have officially asked the Congress of the United States to do a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United. 500 communities have now officially petitioned Congress to act on this. Now, I say that's getting better because we have a grassroots rebellion in this country. And what we talk about in the book is this moment where the media stands down on, doesn't cover politics well or thoroughly. The ads are pouring in. And we're getting our information as spin, as propaganda, not as useful information. And we go out and say that to people. Mm-hmm. Everybody gets it. And again, what I'm telling you is they're out there trying to fix this thing. Grassroots people getting up in the morning trying to fix it. Part of our job as folks who try to move this ball along, cover this country in a good way, is to remember to talk about them. Don't leave them out there in the wilderness. Yeah. Let's bring their message to Washington.
And that's what you're doing.
We're trying.
Yeah, indeed. And you come to Washington at a time when, get this, all right? Mm-hmm. So the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, the Wall Street Journal, the Business Roundtable, people that normally speak to Republicans and the Republicans listen to, say it would be really bad idea to shut down the government. John Boehner himself says it would be really a bad idea to shut down the government. Yesterday, John Boehner scheduled a vote for this Friday to shut down the government unless they can entirely defund Obamacare.
You're right, and in fact, the Boehner quote from March, which you paraphrase very well, but let's go the full quote. It is, who would risk the full faith and credit of the federal government of the United States of America on a fight over Obamacare? And he was right. He recognized that's not how you do this.
So what happened yesterday?
Well, what happened is that Tom Graves and some other members of the House, who really are the rising powers in the House, they tend to be Southerners. Not from Ohio. They tend to be from, like 90% Republican districts or 80%. They're very solid. They can pretty much do what they want and not risk re-election. They organized to make this fight. They are backed up. You talk about some of the elite power in the Republican Party. These guys are also backed up by other sectors within the party who want to have this fight, some of them with a lot of money. So it's a divide within the power. And they basically came to Boehner. They said, we've got 80, 90 or more members who are signed on for this right now. And if you don't give us this, you are risking your speakership. You're risking a lot. And he bent to it. There's no question. You could see.
So Boehner would rather risk the full faith and credit of the United States than his job.
There's simply no question. Come on, let's not be, because he could have done, there's an easy way to do this. You say, I personally oppose this even, but I'm going to let a vote go forward, because the vote going forward would get most Democrats overwhelmingly, as well as we imagine 60, 70 Republicans, a decent number of old school responsible Republicans. Boehner has circumvented that, made this an internal caucus thing. Where this becomes a very, very big deal too is you got to read what he's proposed. He has not just proposed, we're going to go forward with things normally except for Obamacare, which is what it'll be publicized as. This has got the build out of the Keystone Pipeline in it. This has got you read what they propose. It's a laundry list of extreme demands that take the hard issues that Congress should be debating about, lobs them into this, what should be a perfunctory resolution, makes it impossible for a ton of people to vote for, creates a crisis. And the fact is, it's not going to be Friday. We're going to be talking about this for weeks.
Here we go again, right?
Yeah.
Is there any way that Senate Republicans, with the sole exception of Ted Cruz, go along with this?
Oh, go along with it? No. I mean, the fact of the matter is that the kind of people who are Senate Republicans are already opposed to this in the House. You understand?
Got it, yeah.
There's this chunk of the Republican Party that you and I would have a day-long debate with on almost every fundamental issue. But at the end of the day, they default toward playing tennis with a net, right? That they say, okay, there are rules, there's structures, we'll go along with that. Yeah. They are now a minority in the House. They're not the Senate Republicans. They may or may, certainly there are outliers, but in the House, the Main Street Republicans, the responsible Republicans, are a minority, and they have lost control of their chamber.
So Jay Carney used this phrase yesterday, which caught my attention, that in effect we're watching a civil war in the Republican Party. Do you think that's accurate today?
I think that's exactly accurate, and I think there's something else going on which is perhaps more terrifying. And I say it is terrifying because I like politics, and I like real politics where you have competition. I would suggest to you that there's a portion of the Republican Party that has decided they can never win the presidency again. They believe that. But they do believe they can win the off-year elections. And so the calculus is that they will continue to control through these off-year, off-cycle elections, keep Congress, keep the House, maybe even get the Senate.
Certainly the House.
These ideas could never play in a presidential race. Never would.
The House more so because of the district by district by district as opposed to statewide.
Well, you say district by district by district, brother. We're talking about gerrymandering. And the fact of the matter is the 2010 election continues to be the most significant election in modern history in many ways because it allowed for a skewing of the political process in a way that Democrats win the most votes for Congress, but they don't get a majority. Mm-hmm. And so we have Republicans in super safe districts, and they have no sense of...
And that minority are running the show today. Something that didn't get as much attention as I think it should. The Census Bureau yesterday came out with its annual report on income, wealth in this country today, reporting that we are still here, 2013, 16% of Americans, 46.5 million Americans living in poverty in this country.
A huge portion of them full-time workers.
In terms of middle class, average American family today making less today than it made in 1989. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
After Reagan, who... look, these figures ought to be the absolute wake-up call in American politics, and they ought to be shaking everybody. And it's an interesting thing. Up in New York, Bill de Blasio ran on these things and found that the middle class supported him because the middle class is starting to recognize that when they look up or down, they're an awful lot closer to down. They're an awful lot closer to falling into those hard economic times. We tell ourselves that there's a portion of people that are middle class, that are relatively comfortable. We think everything's fine for them. The fact is, many of them are underwater on their mortgages. Many of them are really worried about losing a job. And the powerful thing to me in those economic figures is this question of why isn't it a wake-up call? Well, one of the answers is found in another publication, or a publication here in Washington, Roll Call. They just did their annual study of the wealth of members of Congress. And what we're finding is the Congress is a 1% institution, not a 99% institution. And I don't think it responds to poverty as well as it should.